the experience of KAST has to completely crush what you get from a bank.
Raagulan Pathy is the CEO of KAST. With 500,000 users and $20 million in volume, he breaks down the roadmap to build the business OS for a $10 trillion economy.
Often what happens in the US is you go and start building your company. Typically what they'll do is we're going to hire X amount of people in America. Suddenly you've got this like day one globally spread team. You start up your KAST for Business account and then you pay out to people. And because they can use it nearly anywhere in the world, they've got KAST, they get their money. It's all very, very instant and quick.
From scaling global payroll to launching unsecured credit. Catch the full strategy on building the next global bank with Drew Rogers, only on StableDash.
We are here at Solana Breakpoint 2025 with Raagulan Pathy from KAST. I'm trying to remember. I think this is the fourth or fifth conversation we've had. I think you have the most covered brand on StableDash right now, just because we love KAST. We love what you guys are doing. The yacht party last night was awesome. How do you think that went? What was the takeaway?
The takeaway is that I was in a lot of pain this morning. So, I'm too old for this.
It was so fun.
It was definitely, it's also a little bit of an end of year one for some of the people on the team and for clients. I think they were willing to sort of a season finale kind of after all the crypto conferences. But yeah, it was good. It was a bit more of a curated one, pretty small, only like 100 people because yachts obviously can only fit so much. But yeah, I think we were a lot of fun and then people came in and out during the night. Not one of our mega ones like we've done in Singapore and Buenos Aires where we've got thousands of people. But yeah, we just thought a more curated one.
Yeah, it was really great. Well, always thankful for you to be sitting down with us. I think maybe here uniquely at Solana, it feels like kind of the Super Bowl for KAST. Like you guys have really embedded yourselves. Something I think has been really smart from a growth standpoint and product standpoint, from my perspective, is seeing how aligned you have been with Solana since the beginning. I think that's been I'm speaking for you here a little bit, but just such a foundational part of your story and your success as you've grown. Maybe to kick this off, like how would you, are you speaking tomorrow at the main stage?
Yeah, I'm speaking tomorrow on the product roadmap, yeah.
How would you compare this event specifically, this Breakpoint, compared to maybe the journey of KAST in recent years? You've spoken at Breakpoint before. How are you feeling coming into this event as you're building the company versus maybe other years? Like what's top of mind?
Oh, there's no other years because we're only 18 months old. So we've only
Did you launch the product last year?
Pretty much. Like
Okay.
KAST launched in July 1st and then Breakpoint was like mid-September. So we're like 2.5 months in and really the first month or so was beta-ish. So yeah, like essentially the big KAST launch, you know, where we talked about the gold card, etc., was all at Solana Breakpoint this year. And now the gold card's obviously out there in real life. And so, yeah, I think the partnership with Solana has been deep and incredible support from the foundation. Personally, I don't think there's a better platform on which people can actually launch, particularly apps, right? Now, some other communities like Ethereum are maybe strong around infrastructure for sure. But when it comes to consumer, when it comes to apps, Solana has like the best track record. You know, honestly, they hold the best events. They have the greatest number of users. They have the best track record of creating significant companies on Solana, right? Like if you look at Phantom, you know, and there's so many others as well that have been built off the platform that Solana provides to capture users. So we saw that and we thought, okay, this is a no-brainer. I know a lot of the guys over at the foundation. Yeah, I mean, so they've been super helpful. But you know, it's also one of these things I think in crypto, which is not talked about a lot, which is that a lot of foundations are giving money to projects, and then the projects go and try to find PMF. We never got a single dime from Solana Foundation, right?
Yeah.
And that's not because we didn't ever really ask them. But actually what Solana gives is more than the money. Like what it gives is actually the platform, the community, the users, the free marketing on their X, you know, where they'll promote you. That's invaluable. That's worth a lot more than money, right?
In my view, it's truly what a blockchain ecosystem should be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
So many ecosystems will do what you're saying, where they're throwing capital, which in some cases is really helpful with bootstrapping certain things, liquidity.
Sure.
Like it makes sense.
And Solana does that as well for other projects. So.
And there are definitely time and places for that, but there are like many foundations or situations where you're just like, you're almost playing venture capital with it. And it's like, I don't know if that, I don't think Solana has done that very much from my experience or what I've heard from other founders. And it's turned out to be really great because, like you're saying, the most supportive thing is the distribution, the spotlight, the community. And I think KAST is a great success story of that so far.
Absolutely. Completely agree. In terms of Breakpoint as an event, well, actually just all the Solana Foundation run events, they just, I mean, I walked in, you probably get the same feeling. It's like, this is so professionally done. Like, you can just feel how high quality it is. We've all been to a lot of crypto conferences. You go to some of them, they're just not organized. Here, everything runs like, like a Swiss railway. It's just like everything runs to a clock perfectly. Just the food is great. The booths set up are done really nicely. They spend money on making it look and feel really, really high quality.
The chairs are deep. Tell us about tomorrow. This won't release until you speak tomorrow. So yeah, what are you talking about? What are you bringing to that room tomorrow?
Yeah, so tomorrow is just really about, I guess, the KAST product vision in 2026. We've got a lot more engineers now compared to what we had. Got close to 150 engineers and product people, but we have a lot to ship. As I told the team, we've got incredible amount to ship, including things like KAST for Business, including things like our yielding products. We will have unsecured lending credit in the US market starting off with. And then if looking at going globally, what else? We're doing, I mean, at the moment you can use KAST much more like a bank, but that's getting deeper. So you can send and receive money to, I think, 125 countries now via SWIFT, but soon we'll have local payment payouts in 100 plus countries as well. Sending wallets. So it's a truly, truly global bank, and I think just explaining through a little bit about that. It sounds simple and pretty trivial, but really, really, we're trying to build that global bank piece. And we want to make sure that like 50% of revenue in a year from now is from other things, not card, because that to me is the sign that we've truly become a global bank.
Yeah. So diversifying revenue into other key product areas. I know we've talked about before the way you've architected KAST from the very beginning has been really focused on, regulatory coverage, compliance, taking a convicted approach around the custodial nature of this. How does that, when you think about 2026, some of these core convictions, these are big swings. Like all of those things you just said uniquely could stand alone as businesses.
Yeah.
How are you thinking about, 100 engineers helps having that, but like, how are you thinking about bringing all of those things together into a single place without losing that clarity of who you are? That's a little philosophical question.
Yeah. It is difficult. I mean, we will have KAST, the main app. Then we have Outcast, which is our trading app. And then we're going to have KAST for Business. So that's 3 very, very big pillars to execute on, all at the same time.
Payments, trading, then like an institutional, like business, like,
yeah.
Who is the ideal user on that business platform in your mind?
Yeah. I mean, like people with startups from 0 to 100 employees initially. Essentially, like you can imagine like the early stages of a Ramp or a Brex, but a global version with stablecoins, with card issuance globally. That's essentially what we're going for.
Do you see the flywheel a little bit where you have the existing KAST app on the retail or individual side linking in a meaningful way to the business side for like employees or payroll or things like that?
Exactly. Like we could have built business ages ago. The main reason we didn't was because if you go and we see others building a business version and just going down that route, but the customer acquisition costs are just super high. It's much easier to have a retail presence and then build a business presence because a lot of people are using us for business now anyway, inadvertently. And so then they're like, oh, KAST has a business version. Like their retail version is great. I get great customer support. I get a concierge, etc. So just basically flipping that into a business version. Of course, there's a lot of stuff to do when you build a business version. You've got to build a web app. You've got to build expense management, and all this other stuff.
I was talking to a guy last night who's in one of your power user points. Like he was like
number 6.
That guy.
Yeah.
And he was so proud of it. And he was so excited about it.
Yeah.
And he was showing me the points and he's like, and he did mention that like a lot of those are coming from business related use cases or expenses, or like he's using it in some ways for that or reimbursing himself. It is interesting because, when you come out with this business platform, a guy like that is going to be a perfect you already have him now. Like, are you thinking about on the product design side, embedding that upsell within the KAST app directly? Or
Yeah, exactly. So people will know about the business side. Look, the way that I view it is that, and we're focusing it, by the way, from the US, because we think the US market is the biggest. Often what happens in the US is like roughly, I don't know what the exact number is, but probably half of entrepreneurs and tech companies, immigrant founders, either first or second generation, right? And so that along with even non-immigrant founders means that when you start a company, you go and get capital in the US, you go and get a few $1 million, you go and start building your company. Typically what they'll do is, okay, we're going to hire X amount of people in America. Hiring everyone in America is too expensive. And then we're going to hire some engineers in Singapore, in India. We're going to hire some support in the Philippines or Mexico. Maybe we'll hire some engineers in Latin America as well. And so suddenly you've got this like day one globally spread team, right? And then you're like, okay, how do I pay them, right? And so of course you've got services like Deal where you can actually go and pay them and do all that payroll. And that's one option. But we think like the newer version of that is that you start up your KAST for Business account, you have your money, and then you pay out to people and you just tell all your employees to have KAST. And because they can use it nearly anywhere in the world, they've got KAST, they get their money. It's all very, very instant and quick. And so you've got that combination of that retail user along with that business user all in one.
Can you speak a little bit about that flow of funds in that use case where I'm thinking about the option of I'm a business, I'm a founder, I'm paying my team globally, and the maybe efficiency, cost, benefits you see and how you've structured this custodially where KAST is trusted and regulated to move this money around. I'm imagining there's kind of like a Venmo-like efficiency there versus...
You can pay using KAST Tag now, where you can just know someone else's phone number, email, or their KAST like at logo, and then you can just pay them by that. So you can just essentially extend it. So in your business, the way we see it is you have a business platform. In that business platform, you'll be able to have all the employees' tags, and you can pay them through that. And also, if they don't have KAST, you can also still pay them the normal way as well.
It's amazing. And those become like very efficient omnibus ledgering.
Exactly. It's super quick, right? It's instant.
That's amazing.
Like you pay your payroll day, bang. If everyone's got KAST, it's in their account straight away.
Speak a little bit to now where maybe the phase 2 of this a little bit is, okay, you have now a lot of assets under management. It's essentially what you've built now. How the USDK or USDY asset fits into that vision as you now have this closed loop valuable system going.
Yeah. So what we're doing is that we are working on, and this is going to be really, really difficult to execute, but we hope that we can execute it in Q1, where everyone would, when you deposit USDC or USDT, it basically gets converted into USDK, and then you can see USDK on chain. So if you have a KAST balance, you will have a wallet, and you'll be able to say, if it says X, then this is what I've got, and you can see it on chain.
Is it just stablecoin? You have to start with stables, or could you also do that with fiat? Like start with fiat, ACHN, and that same thing happens? Or do you
yes, that's what happens today anyway.
Okay, so I don't have to have stablecoins.
No, you can bring in fiat, but it ends up as stablecoins.
Okay, cool. And what is technically difficult about that? Is it just the timeline of getting that going by Q1, or are there like specific hurdles that are tough
the difficulty is that you've got to, there's many difficulties, and this is why people don't do it. You've got to swap USDC and USDT, and there's a cost to that. You got to hold the treasury available for that, the pool for being able to do the swap itself. You got to bridge it across multi-chains, multiple stablecoins into a single chain, single currency. None of that is easy, No one has technically done that. Either you bring in, for a wallet, you bring in USDC or USDT, it sits as USDC or USDT on a particular chain in that island, right? And a wallet, when you want to move it across, you got to bridge it or swap it or use some of the services from Circle, for example. And so you've got to go through all that hassle. You've got to add gas, etc. So you've got to do that. Or for custodial ones, they just hold it mostly as USDC and USDT. So they don't have to do any of that bridging or swapping. But then they can't show you the money on chain. We don't show it to you specifically today. We obviously are very, very careful with it. We have lots of audits and reports and stuff like that. But if you had it on chain, then you could verify it. You get the best of both worlds. No one's done that today, by the way. So it's very, it's misunderstood as to how difficult that is. And to off-ramp USDC and USDT, by the way, is a 10 bips fee, right? So we have to basically create a pool to be able to get around that. So we don't, because obviously it's not going to be acceptable to users if they lose money every time they move money in and out.
Yeah, there's so many pieces to this. Two-part question. M0 is the issuance partner is it for both USDK and USDY or just one of them?
Yep, for both.
For both. Where do you see, something that's been kind of the meta in our world the last 4 to 6 months are these like stablecoin focused chains. Tempo just came out of, they're in public beta or something right now. You have Codex and a lot of people who are trying to win that race, maybe trying to convince you to work with them. What is your experience, or like a lot of what you're talking about in my mind is like what they're trying to solve for? Is this like stablecoin focused native ecosystem effect where a lot of these problems get better? What do you think about all those folks? Like, is it interesting to work with them? Or because I think KAST is like an interesting customer of something like that. How do you think about those groups?
I mean, look, the jury's out as to whether they can pull it off. Yeah. I mean, traditionally, like, this is the facts around stablecoins, right? And I'm going to use stablecoin lightly when I say this, right? There's USDC, there's USDT, there's DAI, and there is USDE. These 4 stablecoins, and you could argue whether USDC and DAI and USDE part of that, whether they're actually a stablecoin. But these 4 represent 99% of all stablecoins globally, right? US dollars, they're in US dollars. So nothing else has been able to do it. Now, if you go and look at the chains, there's basically Ethereum, there's Tron. Ethereum, I think USDC and USDT is more than 100 billion. Tron is around 80 billion. Then there's Solana, which is like 10. There's obviously the stablecoin sitting on Hyperliquid, which is around 5. And then everything else is 2 or less, So there's a huge gap between the TVL of the majors.
We've been trying to visualize some of this on our site. Yeah. And it's so funny because
I don't think people know how big the gap is.
When you see these charts, you essentially see 3 lines of like the breakdown. And then if you just unselect those top 3, now you see like hundreds of different things, but it's like in the 1 or 3% that you don't see.
Exactly.
But the point is like we're still in this extremely lack of distribution or maturity of where we still are. These behemoths that you personally know and helped get to that point. Congrats for you. How does that play into the stable chain narrative in your mind?
Yeah, so I think the stable chain narrative is it's a difficult one, right? Because you're basically trying to force the 0 to 1, right? So I think Stable and Plasma have done it through incentives, but then when those incentives drop off, what happens? I think you're seeing the reduction in that right now. Codex, and I know the guys, they're big fans of the guys over there. They're trying to do it, I guess, a lot more through foreign forex movement of money, especially trade movement of money. They've actually done a pretty interesting path. They've actually gone down this method of essentially having an API where people can actually movement of business money first, and then trying to flip that into a chain, right? So actually get it functionally working first. Tempo, obviously, huge fundraise, 500 mil, crazy, and they have a lot of design partners and
extremely impressive design partners. Have you seen that list from like earlier this week?
Yeah, there's a lot of design partners on there, and even we were interested in potentially working with them as well. But the only thing is that it's difficult. It's difficult. I'll tell you where the difficulty is.
What does it mean to be a design partner?
Well,
just like your thumbs upping. Like, how big is that commitment?
But that's what I guess we don't know.
That's right? The thing. It's like, okay, this is really awesome, but like, is this like 1 or 2 people at these companies that are like going to do R&D for a year, or are these like actual
history of like multi-company design partner versions is not good. I years ago worked at London Clearinghouse, more than 15 years ago, and London Clearinghouse was a clearinghouse for London Stock Exchange, LME, and a bunch of others. And they had the same thing. They had a bunch of banks that actually owned it. It was like a member-owned company. And look, they did the job of clearing really well. But being a member company, it's hard to be focused on profitability. There's no single founder vision. There is a lot of opinions. And you're trying to sort of make everyone happy. And so this is the challenges that they have. And there's been versions of this. In Singapore, they've done a similar one, tried to do bank settlement. This is one of the challenges that they will face. Now, I think maybe they'll be able to overcome it because they've really got a big Stripe backing. And Stripe, obviously, it just depends on how much influence Stripe has on it. It looks like the founders of Stripe are maybe pretty close to it, so that would be quite good. But I think the jury's out.
Yeah, it's so early with it, but it is compelling seeing all of those different things. Bridge, Privy, Stripe just acquired Valora on the wallet side, I think today. In my own personal view, I was talking to an early founder last week on positioning their stablecoin business and like, how do we actually achieve positioning in the market right now? Because you're probably seeing this too. You walk around the room and everyone's a cross-border B2B stablecoin payments company. And I think it's going to be very hard to compete and differentiate with a company like Stripe if you're not extremely clear on who you are and who you're best for, because Stripe is just doing so many things. But anyway, bringing it back to you guys, and as we close here, you're going up tomorrow. You have huge 2026 coming up. What would be the thing that would make, as a founder, shiny object syndrome is something I've struggled with, is what I call it. How do you like, with all of these things that you're trying to determine make sense from a priority standpoint, how do you make sure that it doesn't become shiny object syndrome? And how have you put these 3 or 4 things through that test? And what about those 3 or 4 things, the yield-bearing stablecoin, the everything you've mentioned, like what about those things in aggregate make it so compelling for you?
I think KAST to KAST for business is a natural progression. And then Outcast, I think, is a little bit separate. I think USDK and USDKY, they're just, what we're saying is that like, we don't need to like make them grow specifically. We're not trying to do like BD on the stablecoin. They're just simply customer balances being put on chain, And so I think just by running the business, they will naturally grow. But I'll talk a little bit about shiny object syndrome. Oh my God, we have it so much in the company. And I had to send out a pretty strongly worded message yesterday to the company about extreme ownership, extreme focus in H1, because it's funny. You start off as like the most focused, fast moving company. You grow really quickly, and then you can very quickly become unfocused. And this is what, if someone says, what keeps you up at night? This would be it, that we become unfocused and we don't, I called it in the company memo, we become a master of none company, and you deliver a lot of stuff, but you're not really great at any single thing. And that's very, very dangerous, right? Every successful company is a absolute master of one, and some become a master of two.
And what is that for KAST?
I had like 10 main points that we will focus on. And I said, this is already too many, but like there's 10 things that we have to fix. Not 10 products, by the way, but 10 things from licensing and regulation to other things. And then a whole bunch of things we won't do, right? That we're just going to leave till later, right? But I think the number one thing is better than a bank. And so we have this thing called better than a bank. The experience of KAST has to completely crush what you get from a bank, right? And so we have to do everything we can to make it better than a bank. And that is absolute number one. And this is what I go back to the team to tell them. Until you tell me this is better than a bank, until I'm pretty much like throwing away all of my banking applications, we're not done yet. So don't come to me with some other shiny object of you want to do this. And it's always easy, like, oh, we've got money, we'll just hire one guy, he can work on it quietly. I'm like, every single person is a dilution to focus, every single little project. And so you got to pick your one thing and really, really nail it. For us, it's being better than a bank. So that's going to be our focus for 2020.
Better than a bank. Thank you for this. It's always a pleasure. I'm excited to continue to watch it all fold. As I've always said, it's just fun to be in a relationship with you and continue to follow the journey.
And look forward to working together more in 2026.
That was our exclusive conversation with Raagulan Pathy from KAST. Thanks for listening.